Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing, and the senior living industry.
And I'm Corey Sirota, clinical social worker and psychotherapist specializing in grief and loss.
Coming right up on the first half of today's show, internationally best-selling author and parenting educator Barbara Coloroso will talk about parenting with wit and wisdom during times of crisis.
Matt, I am so excited to have Barbara on the show because over the years, she's come into Montreal. I have seen her numerous times, and I always learn something new. It's amazing. Doesn't matter how many times I hear her. I'm forever taking notes, and I'm very, very grateful to know her. I had the chance to meet her personally. She actually endorsed my book, and when she agreed, I started to cry.
Well, we are so excited to have her on board. She'll be coming up very, very soon. And talk about great people. Corey, I'm going to throw it right back in your court. You are so involved with this Myra's Kids Foundation, and you have a big event coming up on April 29th, don't you?
We do. It's very exciting. We have a virtual event. We said if we can't get together in person, we're going to do this online. It is a awareness event, but a fundraiser, but it's a very fun evening that's going to be an evening of local very talented performers are going to be singing songs of support, of friendship, of hope. It's only $25 a ticket, and it's a full tax receipt. And we have Dan Laxer is our MC, so it should be really special.
So that's April 29th. If the people want to buy tickets, where do they go for that, by the way?
They can go to myraskids.ca/events, and you can absolutely buy tickets.
Yeah, it should be a fun event. And good on you. You're doing a real wonderful thing here. If anyone's falling asleep during the show, I think we have a pretty good second half lined up, right, Corey?
And no question. We have wanted to have Tracy on this show. It's just timing hasn't worked out, and what better time than now? If anybody is looking for or learning how to get some much-needed sleep, we have Tracy Bronstein, sleep expert, coming up, and that's after the 3:30 news.
All right. Barbara Coloroso, she's an internationally recognized speaker and consultant on parenting, teaching, school discipline, bullying, grieving, nonviolent conflict resolution. It goes on and on, much, much more. And in fact, she's authored 5 international bestsellers. Barbara has appeared on Oprah, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, and has been featured in the New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek, and other international and national publications. We are so grateful to have her on the show. Barbara, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you, Matt and Corey. It's a real joy to be with you. I have been distanced for a year.
That's right.
Well, we're so blessed to have you, and we're going to get right into it. There's so many different parenting topics to discuss, Barbara. Let's begin with parenting styles. You referenced 3 parenting styles, and what are they, and what's the difference between them?
Yeah, I call them the brick wall, the jellyfish, and the backbone. And the brick wall is a very rigid kind of my way or the highway. A lot of rules and using bribes and threats and rewards and punishments to get kids to comply. Jellyfish is quite the opposite. No structure, anything goes, that sense that, well, I got through this, my kids will get through this. And there are 2 kinds of jellyfish, really. There's that jellyfish A and B. Jellyfish A, anything goes. Jellyfish B are those who were raised in brick wall families themselves and said, I'm not going to do this. And then when things get really crazy, they go back to the brick wall. But then we have the backbone, and it's not a mix of those 2. A backbone, if you look at it, it gives you flexibility. And boy, don't we have to be flexible with our time and our energy and our resources during the time of COVID-19 and loss and radical changes with our own schooling for our children, and that we must be flexible. But it also gives us an environment, and this is the key during this time, to set up a structure that has an invitation for kids to be responsible, resourceful, resilient, and compassionate. And so we have that flexibility. There are limits and boundaries, but they're really flexible depending on the situation, the child, because all of our kids are different, and some of our kids have handled online schooling very differently than their brothers and sisters or their peers. And so we need to have that backbone. And none of us are pure backbone. In fact, brick walls tend to marry jellyfishes, and it doesn't a backbone family make. So we need to just examine what tools do we have in our parenting toolbox that serve us and our children well during this time, and get rid of the others.
Well, we're going to talk about some of those tools, but let me ask you something. We talk about being flexible, especially in times of COVID-19. What are some of the things parents are worrying about, and how do we handle them?
Probably the biggest is screen time. That's what I hear the most about, how much time our kids are on the screen. But again, I would look at, obviously, there's going to be more time, and you should not be so hard on yourself if occasionally we use that screen time as a quote-unquote babysitter so we can get something done, because we've got ourselves many working from home or getting home and not sure of what quality the time the kids have had. So it's really the quality of time. What are they watching? There's a lot of great programming today to help our kids from Sesame Street age all the way up to the young adult age. There's various websites. We have to be creative, and we have to help our young people. Now, remember, we must constantly increase responsibilities and decision-making, decrease limits and boundaries. So when our children are very young, we are much closer to supervision with them. And then as they grow a little bit older, we have to begin to trust them more. But don't give up in the teen years. We don't need to be friends with our teenagers. I get real irritated when people say, my teenager's my best friend, to which I say, get a life. Go find somebody else to be a friend with. They need you still in the teen years as a mentor, a model, and a guide. And so even in the area of online, it's that quality, not necessarily quantity that they're viewing. Some kids don't watch much, but what they're watching is not healthy for them. Others may have to, because of the virtual learning experience, be online more often. And then we want, for their extracurricular activities, we want to be sure they get outside. Even in the cold of Montreal, they need fresh air. I live in Colorado. I'm looking at 7 inches of snow right now. They need to be outside and getting some fresh air. And we can still socially distance doing that. And so make sure our kids are not just inside all the time. Know that our kids are going to squabble a little bit more. We're all under a bit of pressure. And recognize that when our kids are squabbling with their siblings, they are indeed learning how to handle conflicts outside of the family unit as well. And we need to be there again when they're younger, more involved. But as they get older, giving them the tools to handle those conflicts. And then we have to be watching out for something that is on the rise, online and offline. That's sibling bullying and online bullying of peers. And that's very different than conflict. Conflict you resolve, but bullying, mean and cruel behaviors, need to be stopped.
Yeah, you bring up such important points here. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed with Matt and Corey, and that's the voice of Barbara Coloroso, who's teaching us how to parent with wit and wisdom during a crisis. Barbara, I love your take on having a sense of humor. You're a big proponent of that. Why is it so important for parenting?
Oh, we need to be able to laugh at ourselves and laugh with our children, because laughter, even in times of great loss, that gallows humor that we might hear, especially from our preteen and teenage children about COVID, is their way of dealing with that horrific stress. And we need to know that our children are nervous. They're worried that mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or siblings might get very ill, and that's a legitimate fear. And so we want to be able to talk to our children. If you go online, you're going to find lots of humorous, age-appropriate anecdotes about COVID. And one of the ones that my preteen grandchildren have loved is one with a duck who's saying to duck parent, I really don't get this math. and the duck parent says, well, right now you have a really shitty math teacher, meaning mom or dad. And they tend to laugh at that. Pardon the French there, the language. But they can laugh, and we need to have humor, even in the rough times. And you will see with your teenagers, especially, that the gallows humor is serving them well, helping them get through this time of great stress.
Barbara, can you tell us the difference between discipline and punishment?
Oh, I'm asked that often. Punishment and discipline are often used interchangeably as if they were the same, and they are not. Punishment is something we do to a child. Discipline is something we do with a child. Punishment's adult-oriented. It's imposed from without. It arouses resentment and basically teaches kids to do three things: be fearful, flee, or fight back. And none of those serve our kids well. But discipline, on the other hand, if you go back to its Latin roots, to discipline with authority means to give life to a child's learning. And that's our goal as responsible, deeply caring parents, is to give life to their learning when they make mistakes, when they create mischief, or when they cause mayhem. Now, all bullying is mayhem, but not all mayhem is bullying. So if they make a mistake, you say, why do we need discipline for a mistake? Because, again, we're giving life to their learning. So a child breaks a glass. That's a mistake. And what they need to do is own it, fix it, learn from it, move on. And so the basic formula I use can be across the board. It's not what exactly to do, but that backbone, those vertebrae. You give them ownership of the problem, give them ways to solve it, give them, this is where our wisdom comes in, give them ways to solve it, leave their dignity intact when it's mischief that they have created. So we go from mistakes to mischief to mayhem. A child calls another a gross name. Whether it's at home or at school, I had the wonderful opportunity, it was an eye-opener, to have our young grandson doing virtual learning at our house. And his teacher asked the whole class a question, and a young girl answered. And apparently a young boy rolled his eyes, not even verbally, physically rolled his eyes. And the teacher nailed him on it right away and said, that was mean and cruel. And I will see you after class. And the rest of the class was kind of wondering what's going to happen. The next day, he had to say, what I did was mean and cruel. No, I'm sorry, but what I did was mean and cruel. And this is what I plan to do for the young girl that I rolled my eyes at.
Well, a learning experience for him.
So just nailing it right there.
Yeah.
And so we can do that too at home. And it says to everybody what he did was not right. And it says to the targeted kid that was mean and cruel. So we need to deal with mistakes, mischief, and mayhem in our discipline, but show them what they've done wrong. Give them ownership the best of their ability. Give them ways to solve it. Leave their dignity intact.
Sure.
All throughout this, their dignity is left intact.
Dignity is so important for children as well. Barbara Coloroso, parenting expert. Barbara, we have to head out to traffic here, but we love your take on the word no could also involve that dignity, and you get some rebelliousness out there. But you have some alternative ways to say no.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Flora Lee Senior Residences. Always there for you. Safe, reassuring, and comforting. We call it home.
Barbara, you have some great alternatives to saying no to your children. Please enlighten us.
Yes, we say no a lot to our children, and then they don't take us seriously when we really need to say no. No, Mom, can I have a cookie? No. Dad, can I go over to Jamie's house? No. Mom, can I have the car keys? No. Dad, can I stay out all night? No. And they don't take us seriously on that big one because we keep changing our minds on the little one. So especially during this time of COVID, we might be inclined to say no far too often. So the first alternative, Mom, can I have a cookie? Yes, later. I didn't say no. that 5-year-old's already to fight the no. How do you fight a yes later? And he says, oh, but Mom, I'm so hungry. Okay, have a cookie. It's already later. And you haven't changed a no to a yes. That's the key. And don't say, make sure you eat your supper. What are you going to do if they don't get the cookie back? I mean, we've got to be realistic here. The second alternative, Dad, can I go over to Jamie's house? Give me a minute. There is nothing wrong with asking for a moment to develop your own case. You might think, well, it'd be kind of nice to have him. Yes, you can go, but wait a minute. We have this and this and this. We need to get, no, you can't go. So give yourself a moment to think about what your response is instead of coming out no and then having to change it. The third alternative is the one I use the most with adolescents, but you really can use it with anyone who's verbal. Mom, can I have the car keys? Convince me. Huh? Convince me. Why should I spend my energy at my age trying to convince my adolescent he can have the car keys? Let him expend his youthful energy convincing me why I should. And he might say, but Mom, everybody has... I'm not convinced. Mom, you let Maria. I'm not convinced. Mom, you don't give me the car keys. You're going to take all of us to play practice. I'm convinced. And then they get good then at giving good reasons, which is a valuable tool they'll need later. And then the last one is no. When they say, can I stay out all night? No. You say it, you mean it, and you follow through with it. And it's usually when it's life-threatening, morally threatening, or unhealthy that you have to put that no in there. And they're going to say, how come? And our typical response is because I said so, which, by the way, is a lousy reason. They can go out the back window after you lock the front door, and they still won't know why you said no. So tell them, you can't stay out all night because of sex, jail, drugs, and personal safety. Basically, that's why. And they go, what? Sex, jail, drugs, and personal safety. And I trust you from the moment you walk out the door in the morning till you come back in the evening. It takes less than 5 minutes to get involved in sex, jail, drugs, or personal safety, and I trust you're not during that time. But after midnight, there's a whole lot else left to do but sex, jail, drugs, or personal safety. Now, you have a better crack if you give them that information. If they do slip out the window, they'll understand why you said no, and they'll be more cautious.
That makes total sense. Parenting expert Barbara Coloroso on the line with us, teaching us how to parent with wit and wisdom. Now, Barbara, we're already running out of time. We're going to put you on the spot here for a rapid-fire answer because you talk about something so important that we wanted to get to called the 6 critical life messages. And these are messages that we each need to hear in a variety of ways every day for healthy development. In a minute or less, can you rattle off those 6 messages?
Yes. We must say to all of our children at all ages, I believe in you. I trust in you. I know you can handle this. You are listened to, you're cared for, and you're very important to me. Children need to hear that from their parents, from those close to them, from educators, from people in the community, that we've got your back, kid, and that we believe in you and trust you. And we know you can get through this. We'll all get through this together. It's a community thing. It says to a child, I'm unique, you're unique, and we have a common humanity.
It's so simple, so bang on, and so Barbara Coloroso.
It's simple, just not easy to do.
That's right. It's being able to execute it. We could be theoretical, but being able to execute it. But Barbara, you have been so very helpful for many of us parents and parents of all types of ages with young ones. That's what we love about you. You could everything from, like you mentioned at the beginning, Sesame Street all the way up to the adult children. There is so much information. You have a wonderful website. Can you please let our listeners know how people can get to your website?
Yes, it's www.kidsareworthit.com. And on there, you will see all the handouts for all of my lectures, but there's also something for educators, which parents can benefit from too. Mm-hmm. And that's a 68-page guide on bullying. You don't have time to read a full book. You can't get to the store. You don't want to order something online. It's free. And it goes through the basics, and including sibling bullying, which may be happening in your house, and you really want to get a handle on that.
Right. So it's
kidsareworthit.com,
right? Kidsareworthit.com. Barbara, thank you so much for coming on Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you, Matt and Corey, for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
All right. Corey, what do we have coming up on the second half?
We're going to learn how to get the much needed sleep we are so desperately missing. That's going to be coming up with sleep expert Tracy Bronstein. Stay tuned for it, all and more after the 3:30 CTV News Update.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.